the heart of Mobile, Alabama, an unspeakable tragedy unfolded on March 21, 1990, when the life of 31-year-old Karen Gay Moffett was violently taken. Karen's world was shattered in her own apartment, a space that should have embodied safety and comfort, but instead turned into a chilling crime scene. The day began like any other, but as the clock approached 4 p.m., concern grew when her boyfriend, unable to reach her, entered through his key, discovering a nightmarish scene that would haunt the community indefinitely. Karen's body was discovered with clear signs of a struggle, the aftermath of a violent homicide characterized by strangulation and multiple stab wounds. The chilling tableau revealed a forced entry via the patio sliding glass door, a grim reminder that danger can lurk just outside our sanctuaries. As the details emerged from the investigation led by the Mobile Police Department, a stark reality settled in. The brutal nature of the crime indicated not just an act of violence, but perhaps something more personal, a betrayal, a vengeance. The evidence gathered would fuel both hope and frustration in the years that followed. Despite the swift collection of forensic evidence, including DNA and latent fingerprints, the path to justice grew murky. While the DNA profile, belonging to an unknown killer, was entered into the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, no matches were found, leaving investigators in a relentless search for answers. Eyewitness accounts revealed neighborhood tension, with neighbors reporting screams and the eerie presence of an unfamiliar man in the area around the time of the homicide. Such unsettling insights hinted at the possibility of an opportunistic crime or a stranger attack, yet definitive leads proved elusive. Years later, the case gained renewed attention through modern forensic advancements and media coverage, including an episode of America's Most Wanted in 1993. In 2019, a breakthrough in genetic testing technologies led to a new composite sketch of the suspect, depicting a man with distinct features, a beacon of hope in an otherwise cold case. A reward for information looms, shining a light on the quest for justice for Karen. Though time has passed, the Mobile Police Department's cold case unit remains committed to piecing together the fragments of her story, determined to uncover the truth behind the shadows that linger. For Karen Gay Moffett, the fight for justice endures, echoing in the hearts of those who believe that every crime deserves resolution. The tragic case of Melissa "Missy" Lee continues to haunt the community of Mobile, Alabama. At just 25 years old, the vibrant life of Melissa was cruelly snuffed out in her apartment on March 22, 1991. Found by her father, the gloomy scene concealed chilling secrets of violence and betrayal. As he entered using a spare key, a dark reality awaited him, framed by the silence that now enveloped her once lively home. Melissa's cause of death was strangulation, indicating a brutal struggle preceding her untimely demise. Strikingly, there were no signs of forced entry, a detail that suggested the killer was either known to her or had accessed her apartment through an unlocked door. The meticulous layout of the crime scene raised suspicions that it may have been staged following the murder, further complicating the investigation. How long had her life flashed before her eyes in those final moments? Who could commit such a heinous act? A glimmer of hope came from critical evidence collected on that fateful night. A frantic 911 call was placed from her apartment shortly before her death, where terrified sounds of a struggle and screams echoed through the line before abruptly disconnecting. Despite the police's swift response, they found the scene ostensibly untroubled and chose not to force entry, leading to tragic consequences. Melissa's body was discovered approximately 10 hours later. Forensic analysis yielded DNA evidence from the scene. However, subsequent tests using the FBI's CODIS database revealed no matches, rendering the investigation stagnant. In 2018, the Mobile Police Department turned to forensic genetic genealogy, FGG, hoping to uncover new leads, but as of mid-2025, the identity of the killer remains shrouded in mystery. One of the key persons of interest, her estranged husband, James "Jimmy" Lee Jr., had a tumultuous history with Melissa, yet despite a polygraph and alibi, he was never formally cleared before his death in 2018. This case remains open and unresolved, enshrined within the dark annals of cold cases. It stands as a poignant reminder of the painful questions that linger. Who accessed Melissa's apartment that night? Why was the crime scene manipulated? And could a quicker response from the police have altered the harrowing outcome? The Mobile PD Cold Case Unit continues to seek answers, offering a reward for any information leading to justice for Melissa Lee. Her story, though heart-wrenching, deserves to be heard, as the quest for truth remains unyielding. In December 1993, the life of Dorothy "Dottie" Scott, a 33-year-old nurse and devoted single mother from Mobile, Alabama, took a tragic turn that would become a haunting mystery. Dottie was last seen leaving her workplace, USA Medical Center, late on the night of December 9th. As the cold night air wrapped around her, she unwittingly stepped into a perilous situation that would leave her family and community in despair. Shortly after her disappearance, her car was discovered abandoned and engulfed in flames near the intersection of I-65 and I-10, marking the beginning of a harrowing investigation. Months passed as frantic searches yielded no clues about Dottie's whereabouts. That all changed in April 1996, when hunters stumbled upon her skeletal remains in a secluded wooded area near 8 Mile, Alabama, a discovery that sent shockwaves through the community. The grim reality of her fate became clear. An official ruling determined her death a homicide, and evidence suggested she had been shot. Yet the circumstances surrounding her disappearance remained shrouded in uncertainty. A central figure in this tragic saga was an unidentified male caller who had tormented Dottie in the months prior to her vanishing. His threatening phone calls, filled with obsessive declarations, positioned him as a sinister presence that invaded her life. Dottie had reported these interactions to the police, expressing her intense fear of being stalked. In a cruel twist, during one of these calls, police were able to trace the call's origin to a payphone near her workplace, but the caller eluded them, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions. Despite meticulous investigations and the interrogation of numerous persons of interest, including one individual whose fingerprint was found on her abandoned car, the hazy fog of uncertainty refused to lift. No conclusive evidence emerged linking any suspect to the crime, and every lead ultimately faltered. Dottie Scott's story transformed into a chilling reminder of the risks many women face, deepening the unease with each passing year. Today, Dottie's case remains unsolved, classified as a cold case by the Mobile Police Department. Frustrations mount as the lack of arrests echoes through the years, leaving her loved ones to ponder the devastating reality of lost justice. With every unsolved case comes the hope that the truth will illuminate the shadows and that someone will break the silence surrounding Dottie Scott's tragic fate. The case of Michael Moore, a 17-year-old from Birmingham, Alabama, remains one of the city's most haunting unsolved homicides. On July 11, 1994, in the Ensley neighborhood, specifically on 19th Street, the life of a young African-American male was abruptly cut short. As he stood outside with friends under the cloak of night, an unknown assailant unleashed a barrage of gunfire, claiming Moore's life and leaving a community in shock. For many, this incident symbolizes both the fragility of life and the deep-seated issues of violence in urban America. Witnesses were present during the fateful moments of the shooting, yet the fear of retaliation and a pervasive distrust of law enforcement stifled cooperation. Despite the presence of multiple individuals who seemingly saw what happened, the details remained shrouded in silence. Significant to the investigation's challenges was the absence of physical evidence. No shell casings, no weapons, and the rudimentary forensic technology of the era compounded the dilemma. Without clear motives, the police floated theories ranging from gang involvement to personal disputes, but each lead suffocated in ambiguity. By 1996, the investigation had grown cold, declared so by the Birmingham Police Department after exhausting all feasible leads. In subsequent years, the Cold Case Unit, established in 2005, periodically revisited the files, yet no concrete advancements were made. The pain of the Moore family and the wider community ripples through time, felt by those who knew him and understood the potential future he could have had. Renewed efforts in 2020 saw the police department calling for witnesses to step forward once again, holding on to hope that fresh eyes might illuminate the dark corners of this tragic story. Despite the call to action, silence persists, bearing testimony to the struggles within urban neighborhoods during the turbulent 1990s, where witness intimidation linked tightly to a culture of fear. Michael Moore's case serves as a reminder of the countless lives impacted by violence and the enduring quest for justice that eludes many families. As discussions about social equity and community trust deepen, this case starkly illustrates the broader implications of violent crime and the need for systemic change. The Birmingham police continue to encourage anyone with information to come forward, emphasizing that even decades later, voices can still bring truths into the light, transforming silent suffering into a path toward resolution and healing.
The tragic and perplexing murder of John P. Wheeler III remains one of the most haunting unsolved cases in recent history. Wheeler, a distinguished former Pentagon official and key architect of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, was found dead under circumstances that baffle investigators and the public alike. His journey in the days leading up to his death paints a picture of confusion and vulnerability that starkly contrasts his impressive career. In late December 2010, Wheeler embarked on a train trip from Washington, D.C. to New York City. Shortly after, he was spotted at a Wilmington, Delaware office building, acting strangely and appearing disoriented. Witnesses reported that he was wandering around parking garages, struggling to find his car, even carrying one shoe. This unsettling behavior raised alarm and questions about his well-being, hinting at a disturbing turn in his seemingly stable life. The timeline culminated tragically on January 1, 2011, when witnesses observed human remains being discarded from a refuse truck into the Cherry Island landfill in Wilmington. The ensuing investigation unearthed the horrifying truth. Wheeler had died from blunt force trauma, yet there were no signs of gunshot or stabbing wounds. The presence of his wallet and expensive possessions on his body suggested that this was not a robbery gone awry, further deepening the mystery surrounding his death. Despite an exhaustive investigation by local police and federal authorities, the case has remained cold, with no arrests made or credible suspects identified. Various theories have emerged, ranging from random assault to potential personal disputes and even elaborate conspiracy theories tied to Wheeler's high-level government connections. The brutal nature of his death and the circumstances of his discovery, a missing briefcase alongside a disheveled appearance, add to the eerie enigma. The case of John P. Wheeler III exemplifies not only a loss of life, but also highlights the failures of the investigative system in resolving such brutal crimes. Each passing year without closure for his family and the public only raises more questions and deepens the intrigue. Why did a respected figure find himself in such a perilous situation? And what really happened in those final hours? The absence of an answer persists like an unshakable shadow over the legacy of a brilliant man.
In the quiet suburb of Cahaba Heights, Birmingham, the haunting murder of Cynthia Allgood remains an unresolved tragedy that echoes through the years. Cynthia, 57, was a beloved antiques dealer known for her vibrant personality and distinctive white hair, reminiscent of the beloved sitcom characters. Her life took a horrifying turn on February 24, 1998, after a seemingly ordinary day spent treasure hunting at an estate sale. What should have been a day filled with excitement ended in the chilling discovery of her lifeless body later that evening, sending shockwaves through her community. Cynthia's day began with promise as she attended an estate sale in Mountain Brook, where she navigated through the tantalizing array of collectibles. Eyewitness accounts confirmed that she returned home around 4 p.m., where she would ultimately meet her tragic fate. Her son's discovery of her body hours later unveiled a scene that was alarming, yet perplexing. The home showed no signs of forced entry, leading investigators to suspect an acquaintance may have been involved. Multiple stab wounds told a gruesome story, and the absence of struggle suggested something more sinister at play. To add layers of intrigue, the crime scene appeared staged, hinting at a calculated act rather than an impulsive one. As the investigation unfolded, the mysteries of Cynthia's murder deepened. Key evidence, such as a bloody palm print and DNA samples, failed to connect with any known suspects, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. The investigation focused on potential robbery as a motive due to several stolen antiques, including a distinctive cowboy sculpture. Yet, alongside this theory, investigators probed into Cynthia's personal and business relationships, searching for motives linked to rage or jealousy. Despite extensive questioning of estate sale attendees, information on those who witnessed her final hours remained frustratingly evasive. The additional mystery surrounding the specific stolen items has left investigators and family members longing for answers that remain just beyond reach. Years have passed, but Cynthia Allgood's case remains open, actively pursued, yet cold. The absence of credible witnesses or suspects has perpetuated the intrigue surrounding her death. Investigators continue to piece together this complex puzzle without a clear solution. Some elements of her story hold the keys to the truth. However, as time goes on, both the questions and the memories of this tragic loss linger in Birmingham's shadows, waiting for the day when justice might finally be served. In the summer of 1999, two vibrant young lives were abruptly extinguished. J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hawlett, both 17 and inseparable friends, embarked on what should have been a joyous celebration of J.B.'s upcoming 18th birthday. Their plan for a shopping trip to Headland quickly turned into a chilling mystery when they found themselves lost in the darkened roads of Ozark, Alabama. The last confirmed sighting was at a local gas station where they sought directions, unwittingly approaching the brink of danger that awaited them in the stillness of the night. The timeline unfolded late on July 31st, when their absence raised alarms. Their mothers, instilled with panic, reported the girls missing after they failed to return home. The discovery of J.B. His Mazda, abandoned yet eerily intact with its engine running and hazard lights blinking, triggered immediate concern. The grim reality struck when the authorities discovered both girls' bodies hidden in the trunk. The shocking cause of death, execution-style gunshots, eclipsed the innocence of their youth, marking the beginning of a long, haunting investigation into their untimely demise. For almost 2 decades, the case lingered in the shadows of unsolved mysteries, a chilling reminder of unfinished lives. A significant breakthrough occurred in 2019 when advances in forensic genetic genealogy identified a match to Coley McCraney, a man previously unknown to the victims. His arrest came with charges including capital murder and rape, igniting a mix of hope and skepticism. The trial, delayed until 2023, ignited fervor as the defense attempted to dismantle the solidifying case against him, raising questions about DNA contamination and the lack of corroborating evidence. Despite the arguments, McCraney was ultimately found guilty on multiple counts, sentenced to death, yet the saga carries on. His appeal process suggests that the quest for clarity and closure is far from complete, with murky motives and the circumstances of that fateful night still lingering like an unshakable fog. As the community reflected on the investigation's tumultuous terrain, lingering questions rose. How could a stranger commit such an act? What truly motivated the alleged killer? The enigmatic turn of events continues to ignite debates, with the chilling notion that vital pieces of evidence might have slipped through the cracks of time. The haunting memory of J.B. and Tracy remains alive, serving as a poignant reminder that behind every unsolved case lies a profound human story intertwined with the quest for justice. In the shadows of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the memory of Tabitha Franklin lingers, a haunting reminder of unsolved mysteries that time has not erased. She was a 28-year-old woman, last seen on December 1, 2000, struggling with personal challenges yet described as kind and warm-hearted. Her life, filled with promise and potential, took a tragic turn that day, with whispers of her presence echoing through the streets of her neighborhood and downtown. The timeline of that fateful day is marked by uncertainty and tragedy. Relatives recall her vibrant personality, hoping she would touch base as always. But when she failed to show up for work or contact family, her mother reported her missing on December 2nd. The agony of the search grew palpable until December 7th, when the search turned catastrophic. Her lifeless body was discovered in a secluded wooded area off Highway 69 South, far from the presumed places she might have been. Investigators noted multiple stab wounds, an indication of a brutal and personal attack. The discovery site bore no signs of struggle, raising chilling questions about where her life had been extinguished. Evidence suggested she had been killed elsewhere, sparking a deeper investigation. Conflicting reports of her last whereabouts, either near her apartment on 10th Avenue or at Temerson Square, complicated the hunt for her assailant, leaving family and friends grappling with their loss. Despite the diligent work of the Tuscaloosa Police and Metro Homicide Unit, the case remains tragically unsolved. The lack of witnesses coupled with limited physical evidence created insurmountable challenges. Investigators do possess DNA evidence related to suspects, yet no matches have surfaced in databases, prolonging the mystery. Motive theories span robbery to interpersonal disputes, but nothing definitive has emerged to shine light on the crime. Tabitha Franklin's case stands as a key example of enduring sorrow and unanswered questions. The absence of witness accounts, a confirmed crime scene, and strong suspect leads paints a grim picture of the reality faced by her loved ones. As years stretch into decades, the appeal for information remains, accompanied by variable rewards for tips, urging anyone with knowledge to come forward. The legacy of Tabitha continues to motivate active SAD investigations, embodying hope that one day, justice will finally prevail. On October 12, 2003, the vibrant life of a 24-year-old woman named Latasha Ward came to a tragic end in Birmingham, Alabama. Last seen leaving her home in the Collegeville neighborhood, Latasha had a full day ahead that would never come to pass. Concern engulfed her family when they realized she had not been in contact or fulfilled her commitments. The following day, the weight of worry grew heavier as they reported her missing to the Birmingham Police Department, hoping for a shred of good news amidst their growing fears. 2 days later, Latasha's body was discovered, a shocking find that would deepen the heartbreak felt by her loved ones. Inside her abandoned gray 1990 Honda Accord, parked near an abandoned house in the Smithfield community, was the scene of the tragedy. Multiple gunshot wounds marred her young life, and the lack of signs of struggle in her vehicle suggested a harrowing tale, one that spoke of violence yet raised questions about the nature of her final moments. How did she end up so far from the last place she was known to be? The investigation into Latasha's murder began with urgency, yet quickly fell into the tragic realm of cold cases. Despite diligent efforts by the Birmingham police, the lack of witnesses and tangible forensic evidence has left the community in utter turmoil. No arrests have been made, and no confirmed motives have emerged, leaving behind a haunting silence where the truth should lie. The absence of a primary crime scene further complicates the case, deepening the mystery of her abduction and subsequent murder. On May 20, 2005, tragedy struck Birmingham, Alabama, during a candlelight vigil at College Hills Park, where the community gathered to honor a recent murder victim. Among those present was Jarvis Griffin, a spirited 17-year-old student and basketball player from A.H. Parker High School, with dreams for a bright future. The atmosphere was somber yet hopeful, as friends and family lit candles, their flickering flames illuminating the darkness of loss. However, that evening would soon turn into an alarming nightmare. As the vigil drew to a close around 9:30 p.m., a sudden barrage of gunfire shattered the poignant moment. Chaos erupted as people scrambled for safety, hearts pounding in unison, fear coursing through their veins amid the confusion. Jarvis Griffin was found the following day, lifeless on the very ground that had witnessed a solemn gathering just hours before. Reports indicated he had suffered critical gunshot wounds but was likely caught in crossfire, his bright young life unfairly extinguished as a victim of mistaken identity in what authorities believed to be a targeted act of violence. The brutal nature of the crime shocked the community, not only because of its heartlessness, but also due to its brazen audacity, a murder carried out in plain sight of many witnesses. Despite the plethora of witnesses present that evening, the investigation faced overwhelming challenges. The culture of fear within the community, coupled with a persistent no-snitch mentality, hampered cooperation. Witnesses provided inconsistent accounts, leaving investigators grasping for answers in a tangled web of silence. A painful irony lingered, as the community mourned a young life lost while grappling with the unwillingness of individuals to come forward. Gang retaliation was suspected as a motive, yet Jarvis had no gang affiliations, further intensifying the sense of injustice. The case remains unsolved nearly 2 decades later, with no arrests made. Efforts to gather information continue, with a fluctuating reward offered for details leading to an arrest or conviction. The heart-wrenching reality for Jarvis Griffin's family is the absence of closure. Their persistent pleas for justice echo through the years, a haunting reminder that an innocent teenager's life was stolen in an act of senseless violence. The legacy of Jarvis Griffin serves as both a somber reflection on the consequences of gang violence and a call to action for communities to confront the barriers that silence the truth. His story remains a key, unresolved chapter in Birmingham's history, igniting a collective yearning for justice that refuses to fade away. In the quiet town of Montgomery, Alabama, the tragic case of Brittany Jones remains a haunting reminder of the devastating impact of youth violence. Brittany, a bright and hopeful 13-year-old, was a promising 8th-grade student at Capitol Heights Middle School, full of dreams and aspirations. Her life was abruptly cut short on a fateful night, a casualty of chaos that unfolded during what should have been a carefree gathering of teens at the Clear Creek Apartments. The ill-fated evening of June 27, 2008, began with a party bursting with energy, as over 400 teens and young adults congregated. Under the deceptive spell of a summer night, laughter and music filled the air, but tensions simmered beneath the surface. Shortly after midnight, as the clock ticked toward a new day, the carefree atmosphere shattered violently. Gunfire erupted, transforming joy into sheer terror. Brittany, struck by a stray bullet while near the complex's swimming pool, stepped into a nightmare from which she would never awaken. The aftermath was heartbreaking. Brittany succumbed to her injuries at a local hospital, leaving behind a community grappling with grief and disbelief. The chaos of that night also injured at least 7 others, a grim testament to the recklessness of the gunfire. Brittany's murder, committed by unknown assailants amidst a crowd of witnesses, should have led to a swift investigation. However, as time passed, the reality of the case settled into the chilling category of cold case. Witness cooperation has remained the primary challenge in solving Brittany's murder. Fear and intimidation loomed large, leading many attendees to flee the scene instead of coming forward. Despite ballistics evidence pointing to multiple firearms, the lack of witness accounts has stunted the investigation, leaving police and Brittany's family desperate for leads. A reward exceeding $5,000 continues to draw pleas for information, especially during the painful anniversaries of her death. Nearly 15 years since that tragic night, Brittany's name is more than just a memory. It symbolizes the urgent need for change within the community. Her legacy fuels ongoing discussions about youth violence and the importance of breaking the cycle of silence. With little hope for resolution, the story of Brittany Jones is a poignant reminder that justice delayed is justice denied, and the voices of the innocent must never go unheard. In the quiet shadows of Birmingham, Alabama, the tragic tale of Carol Jenkins remains achingly unresolved. At just 19 years old, Jenkins was a passionate African-American volunteer with the Voter Education Project, dedicating her energy to empowering black voters in Wilcox County. The early hours of September 4, 1974, turned deadly when Jenkins and her cousin, Dolores Powell, were pulled over by 2 armed men posing as police officers. What began as a routine check spiraled into horror as Jenkins was ordered from her vehicle, only to be executed in cold blood, a bullet to the back of her head. Powell miraculously escaped, carrying the haunting memory of that fateful night. The immediate aftermath was marred by chilling revelations and systemic denial. Flyers from the Ku Klux Klan were found strewn at the crime scene, boldly declaring, "The KKK is watching you." Yet Birmingham police denied any involvement, claiming no officers were present in that area during the attack. As if scripted from a cruel play, Jenkins' purse and the weapon used in her murder vanished almost instantaneously from police custody, an act of negligence or something more sinister. Such occurrences hinted at the deep fractures within the investigation, allowing the shadows of racism and power to seep into the very fabric of justice. The investigation launched by the FBI faced insurmountable obstacles when it began linking the murder to key suspects tied to the KKK. Figures such as Bobby Frank Cherry, later convicted for his role in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, loomed large, yet his alibi remained unverified. Meanwhile, J.B. Stoner, a white supremacist lawyer implicated by informants, vehemently denied involvement. Witnesses were not destined to find solace in their truth. Powell and others were met with intimidation, their voices drowned by threats. Critical evidence began to disappear, including fingerprints and the murder weapon, while police logs from that night seemed to evaporate into thin air, obscured by systemic corruption. Connections emerged suggesting that Jenkins' monitoring by the FBI was no coincidence. Her involvement in civil rights placed her under COINTELPRO scrutiny. Even after her death, the investigation languished until official re-examinations in 2007 under the Emmett Till Act shed light on the unresolved case. A report from the DOJ in 2017 cited insufficient evidence for prosecution, the ghosts of overlooked leads and lost testimonies haunting the files. While the case now rests administratively closed, Jenkins stands as an eternal symbol of the violence perpetrated against civil rights activists and the systemic failures that continue to shroud her story in darkness. On the fateful day of May 11, 1962, an idyllic afternoon in Phoenix was shattered by the disappearance of 9-year-old Lori Bembenek. Last seen at approximately 4:30 p.m., the third grader played merrily on a swing set at Stevens Park, her laughter echoing through the air near 11th Avenue and Marlette Street. When night fell, Lori had failed to return home for dinner, sending her family into a frantic search that would soon spiral into heartache. The following morning delivered devastating news. Lori's lifeless body was discovered in a desolate area near 27th Avenue and Bethany Home Road, approximately 5 miles from her last known location. The early morning sun illuminated a grim scene. The cause of death was confirmed to be strangulation, and evidence of sexual assault further deepened the tragedy. The loss of a spirited child shocked the community, grieving the innocence of childhood snatched away too soon. As investigators delved into Lori's murder, they uncovered a witness account that added a chilling twist to the narrative. A young playmate reported seeing Lori climb into a light-colored sedan with an unidentified teenage boy shortly before her abduction. This lead became the focus of police inquiries, centering on a local teen who found himself ensnared in the web of suspicion. Questioned repeatedly and subjected to a polygraph test with inconclusive results, he was ultimately spared from criminal charges, bolstered by an alibi provided by his mother. Meanwhile, the investigation branched out to others, a transient seen nearby and even a convicted child molester, all cleared as time unfurled against the tragedy of Lori's murder. The investigation faced numerous challenges compounded by the era's limited forensic technology. Boundary-pushing techniques such as DNA testing were non-existent in 1962. Compounding frustrations arose in the decades that followed as physical evidence, including clothing, was reportedly lost or destroyed during a storage cleanup by the Phoenix Police Department in the 1970s, effectively erasing the hopes of modern forensic re-examination. This unsolved case has endured, now trickling into the annals of Arizona's cold case history. Despite periodic reviews and the tragedy echoing through the community, Lori's murder remains officially unsolved, casting a long shadow over Phoenix, a somber reminder of a childhood life lost too soon. On December 13, 1995, the peaceful landscape near the Salt River in Scottsdale, Arizona, was shattered by a horrific discovery. The body of Crystal Lynn Beslanowicz, just 17 years old, was found partially submerged in the river by unsuspecting fishermen. The scene was grotesque, with signs of a brutal assault evident. Crystal had fallen victim to a violent murder, bludgeoned to death with a large rock, an act that would haunt her community for decades to come. The aftermath of this tragic incident saw a flurry of investigations. Initial efforts by law enforcement brought forward evidence, but the case quickly turned cold. Despite the urgency and significance of the situation, suspects remained elusive for nearly 18 years. Frustration filled the air as Crystal's family and the Scottsdale community awaited justice, their hopes fading with each passing year without resolution. In 2013, a breakthrough emerged when the Scottsdale police cold case detectives revisited the evidence using cutting-edge DNA technology. The dark cloud cast over the case began to lift as semen found on Crystal's clothing, a crucial piece of evidence, was subjected to advanced testing. Detectives employed YSTR analysis and familial searching, which ultimately pointed to Edward Eugene Ashton, a convicted felon born in 1964 with a history of violent crimes against women, including assault with intent to rape. As they delved deeper into Ashton's background, investigators discovered he had been in the Phoenix, Prairie, Scottsdale area at the time of the murder, revealing a troubling connection to the crime. However, just as hope surged that justice would be served, another twist emerged. It was revealed that Ashton had passed away in October 2007 in Las Vegas, NV, long before the investigation could take steps toward prosecution. The weight of this revelation hung heavily. Though DNA evidence identified Ashton as Crystal's murderer, the absence of his living presence meant that no legal action could be pursued. In 2013, the case was officially closed, marked by the identification of Edward Eugene Ashton as the perpetrator. While law enforcement and forensic advancements brought a measure of closure to the investigation, it served as a harsh reminder of a failing in the justice system. Justice for Crystal would never be realized in the courtroom, leaving her family and community to grapple with a bittersweet conclusion. A solved case but an unprosecuted killer, highlighting the profound tragedy of this young life lost. In the hushed corridors of memory, the tragic tale of Mary Bruder lingers like a haunting echo. A vibrant 21-year-old, Mary had her life cut short on September 29, 1962, within the confines of her apartment in Phoenix, Arizona. Found brutally stabbed, her demise sent tremors through the community, igniting fear and speculation. What dark forces could lead to such a heinous act against a young life full of promise? The investigation that followed was thorough, yet yielded frustratingly few answers. Detectives pored over evidence and sifted through witness accounts, desperately searching for clues that could shed light on the perpetrator. This darkness, symbolic of larger societal fears, raised questions about safety and the unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. The psychological impact of the murder rippled through the city, leading residents to question the sanctity of their homes and the reliability of close-knit neighborhoods. As investigators delved deeper, a sinister pattern began to emerge. The unsolved murder of Mary Bruder was starkly linked to two other murders in Phoenix: the brutal stabbing of 15-year-old Sandra Ramsdell in 1960 and the abduction, rape, and subsequent murder of the Fritz sisters, Gretchen and Wendy, in 1964. These tragic events painted a chilling portrait of a possible serial killer stalking the streets. Central to the investigation was Charles Howard Schmid Jr., and a man whose infamy would overshadow these grim tales. Known as the Pied Piper of Tucson, he lived a double life, charming and charismatic on the outside, yet a monster on the inside. Though he was ultimately convicted for the Fritz sisters' murders, the shadow of suspicion loomed over him in connection to Mary Bruder's case, corroborated by witness accounts and circumstantial evidence. Despite the cloud of evidence suggesting Schmid's involvement, the legal system failed to bring him to justice for the Bruder murder. He died in prison on March 30, 1975, taking with him the secrets of his dark past. Today, the murders of Mary Bruder and Sandra Ramsdell remain officially classified as unsolved, yet in the eyes of investigators and historians, the circumstantial evidence paints a picture too vivid to ignore. The urgency to seek justice for these victims serves as a poignant reminder of the unresolved stories that continue to linger, waiting for the truth to be uncovered. The story of Misty Copsey, a bright 14-year-old, is marked by mystery and heartache. On September 17, 1992, she attended the Puyallup Fair in Washington State with a friend, but under the glow of carnival lights, she vanished without a trace. As the clock struck 11 p.m., her last sighting near the fairgrounds would launch an extensive search, yet no evidence would lead to her whereabouts. Her family's despair rippled through the community, transforming her case into a haunting tale of a missing child. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but the initial investigation yielded no clues in the dense forests of Washington. The loss of Misty became a missing persons case that gripped hearts and stirred determination within local law enforcement. However, a twist in the tale emerged in December 1992 when a vehicle belonging to a carnival worker surfaced abandoned near Payson, Arizona. Inside, investigators uncovered Misty's backpack and clothing, igniting hope that answers were within reach, even as the inquiry shifted from Washington to Arizona. This car connection would start unraveling the fabric of the cold case. As the years passed, another crucial breakthrough occurred in October 2008, when skeletal remains were discovered in a remote area close to Payson, Arizona. In January 2011, those remains were confirmed to belong to Misty Copsey through dental records and DNA testing. Despite this identification illuminating a tragic end, the circumstances surrounding her death remained grimly obscure. Arizona authorities classified the case as a death investigation. However, no cause or manner of death could be established due to the condition of the remains. With no arrests made and mysteries unsolved, the shadows of doubt only deepened, leaving communities questioning who was responsible for such a tragic fate. The dual status of Misty Copsey's case, marked as a missing persons case in Washington and a death investigation in Arizona, keeps her memory alive while perpetuating the search for justice unanswered. Law enforcement continues the open investigation, haunted by unanswered questions. Striking a chord with the universal fear of losing a loved one, Misty's story is a constant reminder of the fragility of life, the hope that accompanies every cold case, and the ever-present dream of closure for families left in the dark. Although one primary suspect died without confessing, the truth of what happened to Misty remains painfully unresolved, leaving an indelible mark on those who strive to remember her. Marissa DeVault, a 23-year-old woman, disappeared in 2001 under mysterious circumstances in Mesa, Arizona, leaving behind a trail of questions and limited information. Her vanishing act struck a chord within the local community, yet received minimal attention beyond its immediate borders. This discrepancy is troubling, considering the whispers of foul play surrounding her case. Despite extensive efforts by authorities, no physical evidence has ever surfaced, making her case a perplexing enigma that continues to baffle investigators. Initially treated as a mere missing persons case, the investigation took a grim turn as law enforcement reclassified it under the banner of suspected homicide. The absence of named suspects or discernible motives only deepened the shadows surrounding her disappearance. The hurdles faced during the investigation were significant. The lack of forensic evidence, the absence of witnesses, and the time period's limited digital footprint hampered any meaningful progress. For a case so devoid of clarity, the echoes of unanswered questions seemed to resonate even louder in the silence of uncertainty. The current status of Marissa's case is that of a cold case, a designation that often signals a lack of closure for families. With no updates available following the initial investigation, her name is conspicuously absent from prominent national databases like NAMUS or the Charlie Project, raising concerns about the persistence of resources dedicated to such long-standing mysteries. Yet, hope remains. Advances in DNA technology might provide a fresh avenue for insights if any biological evidence exists. The possibility of re-examination by Mesa Police Department's cold case unit hangs in the air like an unresolved chord, begging for resolution. The minimal information surrounding Marissa's disappearance could be attributed to several factors. Sharing a common name with another case in 2010 likely muddied the waters of archival records. Furthermore, the pre-digital era signifies scarce online media coverage, leaving a vacuum that has yet to be filled. Family considerations, too, may have played a role. A desire for privacy could have hindered efforts to bring national attention to her plight, making it essential for independent investigators and the public alike to rekindle interest in a case that deserves re-examination and clarity. The murder of Jean Ellis in 1959 remains a haunting chapter in Tucson's history. At just 17 years old, this vibrant high school student was found lifeless in a desolate area near her home. The discovery of her beaten and partially clothed body sent shockwaves through the community, forever marking the date of August 10th as a grim reminder of the violence that had stolen a promising young life. Edward Bud Arthur, a 21-year-old neighbor, quickly emerged as the prime suspect in this tragic case. His arrest happened within 24 hours, with evidence pointing toward a hasty conclusion drawn by law enforcement. Despite his confession after an exhaustive interrogation, Arthur's claims of coercion raised questions about the integrity of the investigation. Bloodstains on his clothing, attributable to a rabbit butchering incident, were collected but subjected to no thorough testing. Those circumstantial pieces of evidence, coupled with witness proximity to the crime scene, painted a picture of guilt that many locals believed lacked solid foundations. As the investigation unfolded, crucial flaws came to light, casting shadows over the case's validity. Arthur's confession, retracted days later, echoed the pitfalls of leading interrogation tactics. With no physical evidence directly linking him to the murder scene, no murder weapon or fingerprints, a sense of unease gripped both the community and those following the case. Tragically, the situation escalated when Arthur, overwhelmed with despair, took his own life in jail while awaiting trial. The community was left to grapple with a dual tragedy, a murdered teenager and the wrongful damage inflicted upon an innocent man. Time would reveal more unsettling revelations. In 2001, the Tucson Police Department's Cold Case Unit re-examined evidence using modern DNA testing methods, unearthing groundbreaking results. The testing of a seminal stain found on Jean's clothing excluded Arthur as the assailant, exonerating him posthumously, but leaving the true perpetrator unidentified and free. This unjust outcome highlights systematic flaws in law enforcement and the fragility of human judgment in criminal proceedings. Today, the case remains open and unsolved, with Tucson PD still encouraging tips through their Cold Case Unit. The DNA profile from the seminal stain is preserved, but as of now, it remains unmatched, and the search for justice continues. The legacy of Jean Ellis not only speaks to a tragic loss of life, but also serves as a stark reminder of the importance of accurate investigations and the need for continued vigilance in the quest for truth. On May 31, 2000, the tranquil life in Gilbert, Arizona, shattered when nurse and mother Lori Andresi met a horrific fate within her own home. Brutally attacked and left with multiple stab wounds, her lifeless body was discovered by her young son upon returning home with his father, an event that would forever haunt a family and a community. Investigators were met with a disturbing scene and few immediate leads, yet they collected crucial DNA evidence that would take years to unravel, marking the beginning of a chilling cold case. The investigation progressed slowly. Despite the bloodshed and heart-wrenching tragedy, few clues emerged in the wake of Lori's demise. A DNA profile collected from the crime scene was entered into the FBI's CODIS database, yet no matches were found at the time. As the days turned into months and then years, the case grew cold, like the silence that enveloped the once vibrant life of Lori Andresi. Each passing year saw the Gilbert Police Department revisit the evidence, but the relentless pursuit of justice seemed to elude them, leaving both the family and investigators yearning for answers. The turning point arrived between 2014 and 2015 as investigative genetic genealogy emerged as a beacon of hope. Teaming up with a private lab and genealogists, the Gilbert PD designed an innovative approach to solve the puzzling murder. By reconstructing family trees using public DNA databases, they managed to narrow the search and landed on Brian Patrick Miller, a name that resurrected decades of pain and mystery. With mounting evidence, detectives surveilled Miller and eventually obtained a discarded DNA sample that matched the DNA found at Lori's crime scene. In January 2015, Miller was arrested, charged with the murder that had haunted so many for years. The trial that followed was a culmination of years filled with agony and unanswered questions. Miller's guilt was substantiated through irrefutable DNA evidence, a scientific tale woven from the strands of tragedy. The prosecution secured a conviction, and in October 2022, he was found guilty of first-degree murder in Lori Andresi's death, sentenced to life in prison without parole. This case serves as a testament to the relentless quest for justice, igniting a flicker of hope not only for Lori Andresi's family, but also for all who believe in the unwavering pursuit of truth. On the fateful day of May 9, 1984, the vibrant world of a 13-year-old girl was forever altered. Christy Fornoff, a diligent newspaper deliverer, vanished while collecting payments from her route at the Cortesa Apartments in Tempe, Arizona. Her laughter and youthful zest faded into haunting silence as the hours turned to days, culminating in an anguishing discovery. Christie's body was recovered from the Arizona Canal 2 days post-abduction, bearing the marks of tragedy. Sexual assault and suffocation marked her final moments. The investigation began unfurling the tangled web surrounding her disappearance, shining a glaring light on the residents of the apartment complex. Center stage stood Donald Beatty, a seemingly unassuming maintenance man in his late 20s. Living among the tenants, he held the keys, not only to the complex, but also to a trove of cryptic clues. With a prior conviction for attempted assault looming over him, the thread of suspicion tightened further. What made the case all the more chilling was the fiber evidence, sparking a link between Christie's tragic end and a peculiar shower curtain from Beatty's own abode. In a courtroom drama that unfolded in 1985, the charges against Beatty seemed insurmountable. Christie's life had been snuffed away under suspicious circumstances, and the fibers became the anchor for the prosecution's narrative. However, the web of certainty started to fray as forensic methods of the time struggled to meet the evidentiary standards of today. Imagined scenarios arose, yet no eyewitness definitively connected Beatty to Christie during her last moments. In a moment destined for infamy, the jury reached a verdict: first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault, a judgment leading him to death row. But even as Beatty languished in prison, proclaiming his innocence amidst mounting despair, unresolved questions lingered. His various appeals, echoing the uncertainty tied to fiber evidence and the aching void of direct proofs, faded into the oblivion of time. In 2011, death came quietly, leaving behind a cacophony of disbelief. Was justice served, or had the real predator slipped away unscathed? Now, with the case deemed closed, eerie nuances of doubt cling to its conclusion, a chilling reminder that beneath the judicial grid, shadows of uncertainty and haunting innocence endure. On July 31, 1960, a haunting discovery stirred the quiet community of Congress, Arizona. A group of schoolboys stumbled upon a partially buried body of a young girl in a wash near 100 miles northwest of Phoenix. The child, estimated to be aged between 4 to 7, had been laid to rest in a shallow grave, covered with rocks. This tragic scene would mark the beginning of an enduring mystery that would baffle investigators for decades. The young girl, who would later be mourned as Little Miss Nobody, stood at approximately 3 feet 6 inches and weighed around 55 pounds. Her appearance was striking with her brown hair, potentially dyed auburn, and a slight gap between her front teeth. Dressed in white shorts paired with a checkered blouse, she wore adult-sized men's slip-on shoes that seemed too large for her small feet. Autopsy reports revealed the horrific nature of her end: strangulation and evidence of sexual assault. The community was heartbroken, and despite the extensive efforts of the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, no identification was made, leaving her under the shroud of anonymity. As years melted into decades, the case of Little Miss Nobody became one of Arizona's most haunting mysteries. Her grave, simply marked with the words, "Blessed are the pure in heart," became a symbol of sorrow for those left behind. Investigators periodically revisited her case, employing emergent forensic technologies, but still found no leads. Yet hope arose when, in 2015, her body was exhumed for modern testing. A breakthrough came years later when the DNA Doe Project harnessed forensic genetic genealogy to trace the roots of this lost child. Finally, on March 23, 2022, it was revealed that the girl named Little Miss Nobody was, in fact, Sharon Lee Gallegos, a vibrant little girl kidnapped just 10 days before her body was discovered. She was not just a nameless victim. She was a part of a family, loved and cherished, and her story desperately sought closure. A renewed investigation into her murder has begun, fueled by the need to uncover the truth behind her tragic abduction and untimely death. A $10,000 reward now stands for any information that could shed light on this unsolved case, as the quest for justice for Sharon continues to resonate deeply within the community. In late 2010, the city of Phoenix, Arizona, was plagued by a tragic mystery that has since faded into the shadows of memories. Rosa Garcia, a vibrant 22-year-old, was discovered lifeless in her apartment, the victim of a brutal homicide by strangulation. This shocking revelation sent ripples through the community, igniting discussions about safety and vulnerability in an urban landscape riddled with hidden dangers. Rosa was found unresponsive in her residence, yet the crime scene did not show immediate signs of forced entry. This peculiar detail complicated the initial investigations, as authorities from the Phoenix Police Department found themselves grappling with ambiguity. Without clear leads, they initiated a thorough exploration. Family, acquaintances, and neighbors were interviewed, but the sensitive nature of Rosa's life led to whispers of her frequenting high-risk areas, raising unanswered questions around the circumstances that may have contributed to her tragic fate. Despite the diligent efforts of the homicide unit, the case of Rosa Garcia soon became a haunting reminder of the countless unsolved mysteries that linger in the shadows. The investigation reached a standstill, evolving into a cold case. No suspects emerged, and no arrests were reported in the years following her death. Still, the Phoenix Police Department has kept the case open, holding on to the hope that new evidence might arise, rekindling the flame of justice that dimmed on that fateful day. The silence surrounding Rosa's case underscores the complex challenges faced by law enforcement in large cities. Each year, Phoenix grapples with numerous homicides, many of which remain buried under a lack of media attention and public outcry. The absence of leads can suffocate the momentum of an investigation, leaving families and communities yearning for closure, yet overshadowed by the weight of countless unsolved crimes that demand attention. Rosa Garcia's story serves as a reminder of both life and loss, compelling us to reflect on the fragility of safety and the importance of vigilance within our communities. The implications of her murder extend beyond the confines of a cold case file. They resonate deeply within the hearts of those who knew her and those who seek justice for victims whose lives were cut short. As time passes, the hope remains that one day the truth will emerge, shedding light on the darkness that has long shrouded Rosa's legacy. In the quiet desert landscape of Arizona, the sun set on October 20, 1961, oblivious to the tragedy that was unfolding. 18-year-old Sharon Hensley, a hard-working waitress, finished her shift at a Tucson drive-in restaurant, unaware that she would never return home. As she stepped into the night, the world outside bustled with life, a stark contrast to the dark fate that awaited her. The very next morning, a passing motorist stumbled upon a horrifying sight: a young woman's partially clothed body, lifeless and abandoned amidst the rugged desert terrain. Initial investigations painted a frightening picture of violence. Sharon had fallen victim to a brutal attack, suffering from blunt force trauma and signs of strangulation, suggesting a desperate struggle for survival. This heinous act didn't just end a young life, it shattered the innocence of a community. Yet despite the seriousness of the crime, evidence proved elusive. Investigators worked tirelessly, interviewing acquaintances, but the trail ran cold. The sense of urgency grew palpable, yet the echoes of silence from potential witnesses weighed heavily on the case. As time linked Sharon's case to that of another unidentified young woman, dubbed the Pima County Jane Doe, speculation grew. Found just months earlier, this victim also fell victim to violence in the same desolate region. The stark similarities sparked theories of a potential connection between the two unsolved cases. However, as the years passed, these theories remained overshadowed by the limitations of forensic technology in 1961. Lacking the tools that modern investigations leverage, the true horrors of both cases lingered in the shadows, unexposed and unaccounted for. Recently, hope flickered anew with the Pima County Sheriff's Department's Cold Case Unit's submission of evidence for modern forensic testing. The possibility that new technology could finally unearth crucial leads ignited the imagination. Yet, results of this testing remain shrouded in mystery, with no arrests and no respite for those seeking closure. The tragic death of Sharon Hensley, once a young woman with dreams, now serves as a chilling reminder of unresolved nightmares. A cold case that invites not just inquiry, but the fervent hope for justice still waiting in the desert shadows. The tragic case of Bonnie Jean Howard serves as a haunting reminder of the unresolved violence that can strike even within the comforts of home. On August 31, 2000, This 54-year-old woman's life was cut short when she was discovered murdered in her Phoenix residence, a place that should have been her sanctuary. The brutality of her death, ruled a homicide by strangulation, left an indelible mark on the community and raised numerous questions about safety and justice. The circumstances surrounding Howard's death paint a chilling picture. Evidence at the scene indicated a violent struggle, suggesting that she fought fiercely for her life against an intruder who had forced their way into her home near 16th Street and Bethany Home Road. The invasion of her personal space was coupled with the retrieval of crucial DNA evidence, believed to belong to her attacker, which only deepened the mystery surrounding her murder and intensified the hunt for justice. Despite this critical evidence, the investigation faced daunting challenges. In the early days, authorities grappled with the lack of suspects, leading to frustration and heartbreak for Howard's family. The DNA evidence was entered into CODIS, the national DNA database, yet yielded no matches for over 2 decades, allowing her case to linger in the shadows of unsolved crimes. The absence of eyewitness accounts further complicated efforts to build a lead, leaving investigators with little more than unanswered questions and a profound sense of urgency to find answers. In a notable twist in the investigation, Phoenix PD began employing forensic genetic genealogy in 2021 to re-examine the DNA found at the crime scene. This pioneering technique, famously used to apprehend the Golden State Killer, gave hope that breakthroughs could emerge in cases like Howard's. Despite these advancements, as of mid-2025, no arrests or suspect identifications had been made public, underscoring the relentless grip of uncertainty that envelops her unsolved homicide. In the quest for justice, a $10,000 reward has been offered by Silent Witness for information leading to an arrest, a glimmer of hope that someone might step forward after all these years. Bonnie Howard's case remains active, a tragic intersection of violence and the quest for truth that reflects broader themes within the criminal justice system. As investigation techniques evolve, the hope that one day her case will find resolution endures, keeping the spirit of her story alive in the hope for closure. In the heart of rural Alabama, the chilling narrative of Carol Denise Jenkins unfolds, a poignant reminder of the violence faced by civil rights activists. At just 19 years old, Carol dedicated her life to empowering communities through the Voter Education Project, illuminating the path towards civil equality. However, her commitment came at a devastating cost. On September 4, 1974, her life was abruptly pierced by the very hatred she fought against, becoming the unwitting target of brutality in an era tumultuous with racial strife. On that fateful day, Carol was lured into a trap set by those masquerading as law enforcement, their vehicle sporting a deceptive blue light. The facade quickly crumbled into terror as she was forcibly pulled from her own car at gunpoint. In a heart-stopping moment of unfathomable cruelty, Carol was executed with 2 gunshots to the head, a brutal act committed before the terrified eyes of her cousin, Dolores Anthony, who somehow survived the nightmare. This raw violence not only extinguished a vibrant life, but also unleashed a wave of unanswered questions about justice and accountability. Investigations into Carol's death revealed a tapestry of systemic failures steeped in corruption and intimidation. Key suspects, William Billy Porter and James Tiger Knowles, were deeply entrenched in the KKK, and the investigation faltered under the weight of lost evidence and witness silencing. The murder weapon vanished post-seizure, while forensic opportunities were slashed away as the suspect's car was hastily scrapped. Witnesses gripping the threads of truth were subjected to grave threats, creating a chilling environment of fear that stifled justice. Local prosecutors, swayed by the pervasive influence of the Klan, hesitated to bring charges, with federal authorities turning a blind eye, bound by restrictive legal interpretations. As the years slipped away, the case remained a haunting specter of lost justice. The deaths of Porter in 1989 and Knowles in prison in 2020 rendered judicial closure seemingly impossible. Finally, between 2018 and 2019, the DOJ and FBI publicly acknowledged the guilt of the suspects, yet declared the case officially closed, crippled by the pain of lost evidence and deceased witnesses. Carol Jenkins' legacy is forever intertwined with the harsh realities of unpunished clan violence, a heart-wrenching symbol of the systemic failures that deny justice, leaving her story echoing through time as a solemn testament to the battles still fought for equality. In the sweltering summer days of August 1994, a crime scene unfolded in a modest apartment complex near 16th Street and Bethany Home Road in Phoenix, Arizona. The discovery of 22-year-old Valerie Linster's lifeless body sent shockwaves through the community. The details that emerged hinted at a brutal confrontation within the confines of her own home. Multiple stab wounds painted a horrific picture of violence, leaving investigators and loved ones grappling with the reality of a life cut short. As detectives combed through the crime scene, they uncovered signs of forced entry, suggesting the perpetrator had invaded Valerie's sanctuary. Marks of a violent struggle were evident, yet the silence that enveloped the neighborhood was deafening. No witnesses reported any screams or erratic activity, rendering residents innocent bystanders to an act of unspeakable horror. With so many unanswered questions, the investigation took on a life of its own. In the following days, critical evidence began to unfold. Blood and seminal fluid collected from the scene failed to match Valerie's DNA, indicating at least 2 unidentified males had been present during the crime. This alarming revelation pushed the case firmly into the realm of forensic science. The samples were entered into CODIS, the FBI's national DNA database, yet time slipped away without a single match to provide a concrete lead. Despite the progress in forensic technology, the investigation faced crippling obstacles. With no suspects in sight, whispers of possible motives, robbery, personal vendetta, or sexual assault, haunted investigators but remained elusive truths. Conflicting leads arose, suggesting potential acquaintances, only for DNA testing to exclude these individuals one after another. 30 years slipped by, and the case that began with promise had turned cold, yet the pursuit for justice continued. In 2021, a glimmer of hope sparked in the diligent work of the Phoenix PD as they sought forensic genetic genealogy testing for the collected evidence. Activating this modern approach to crime-solving reignited the flames of an unresolved case that had lain dormant. Now, a $10,000 reward stands as a beacon for anyone with information leading to an arrest. As of 2025, the case remains officially open yet unanswered, with unmatched male DNA profiles continuing to pose a significant hurdle. The haunting question lingers: who killed Valerie Linster? The search for answers continues, fueled by a community yearning for closure. On July 20, 2000, the vibrant life of Dina Rane McDaniel abruptly turned into a haunting mystery. At just 33 years old, Dina was seen leaving her apartment near the intersection of 19th Avenue and Bethany Home Road in Phoenix, Arizona. She informed her family of plans to meet an unidentified male acquaintance, but never returned home. Her car remained untouched in the lot, and all her personal belongings stayed behind, casting a shadow of unease over her loved ones. The grim reality of her situation didn't fully surface until March 16, 2003, when authorities discovered partial skeletal remains in a remote desert area near Lake Pleasant, Maricopa County. The prolonged absence of answers echoed in the hearts of those who knew her. Authorities confirmed Dina's identity using dental records about 5 months after the discovery, leaving more questions than answers about her fate. Despite detailed investigations following her disappearance, the case remained shrouded in obscurity. Often, crime scenes tell their tales, but in Dina's case, her apartment revealed no signs of struggle, and the circumstances of her disappearance remained a puzzle. Limited evidence exacerbated the mystery. No DNA or forensic traces were recovered from the remains, and critical items such as her purse and keys vanished without a trace. The anonymous male acquaintance she planned to meet led to a trail that went cold almost immediately, as police were unable to identify him, and no persons of interest emerged despite interviews with associates. The complexity of the case deepened due to significant challenges. A gap of 3 years contributed to severe decomposition, making it impossible to analyze the cause or manner of death. Without witnesses who could provide insights or sightings, Dina's silent absence remained all the more unsettling. Even extensive media appeals failed to draw actionable tips, turning a once hopeful search into a chilling silence. As of 2025, Dana McDaniel's case officially remains unsolved, embodying the heartache of unresolved mystery that lingers among her family and friends. Jurisdiction lies with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, keeping the case active but devoid of recent developments. A reward of $1,000 by silent witness hangs in the air, inviting anyone with information about this tragic story to come forward, shedding light on the enduring questions surrounding Dina's disappearance. On December 2, 2001, the remains of Crystal Annette Medina were discovered in a desolate wash near 27th Avenue and Durango Street in Phoenix, Arizona. At just 22 years old, her life was abruptly cut short, leaving behind partially skeletal remains that spoke volumes of a tragic end. As investigators arrived on the scene, the chilling reality of another victim in a forgotten landscape unfolded before them, yet the identity of this young woman remained tragically shrouded in mystery. For 15 long years, Crystal was known only as Jane Doe, UP 7248, her existence marked by anonymity and sorrow as loved ones searched for answers. It wasn't until a breakthrough in 2016 that her true identity could finally be acknowledged, thanks to a DNA comparison that connected her to her family. The pain of loss resurfaced, but with it, the fleeting hope that justice might eventually prevail. Crystal's legacy would not be one of silence, but of the desperate fight to solve the riddles of unmarked graves. However, the investigation surrounding her death revealed deeply unsettling truths. A homicide classified without a determined cause, the clues were scant yet haunting. Her distinctive white Nike Air Max sneakers found nearby became a critical piece in this tragic puzzle. DNA recovered from her clothing revealed traces belonging to an unknown male, expanding the mystery yet again, as their identity remains a missing piece in the tapestry of Crystal's life and death. The absence of a match in CODIS has rendered progress painfully slow, though the male DNA profile continues to be monitored for any potential leads, a constant reminder of the life once lived and the questions still unanswered. The investigation remains active yet largely stymied, with no suspects or clear pathways leading to the truth behind Crystal's tragic end. The lure of forensic genetic genealogy may yet unveil crucial connections, but as of 2025, no public confirmation has been granted. In the shadows of unsolved murders of young women in Central Phoenix, Crystal's case highlights the urgent challenges faced by families in identifying transient victims and the complexities of leveraging DNA evidence when matches remain elusive. A reward of $1,000 remains available through silent witness, a glimmer of hope in an otherwise darkened path, a call to the community to step forward, reminding us that every life taken deserves remembrance, justice, and closure. Catherine Kathy Mendez was a bright 15-year-old whose life and dreams were tragically interrupted on October 25, 1987. As she left her home near 29th Street and Columbus Boulevard in Tucson, Arizona, she told her family she was walking to a friend's house. Excitement filled the air, but as the hours slipped away, that excitement turned into worry. Kathy never arrived at her destination, leaving her family in a harrowing realm of uncertainty and fear. Days turned into weeks as her loved ones desperately searched for clues, but Kathy's trail had gone cold. The heart-wrenching wait stretched over 3.5 years until, on March 15, 1991, skeletal remains were discovered in a remote desert area near West Valencia Road and South Wade Road. The discovery was a cruel twist of fate. The hope of finding Kathy alive vanished with the confirmation of her identity through dental records, engulfing her family in a profound grief they never anticipated. The investigation into Kathy's disappearance began with promise but dwindled as time passed. In 2007, the case was officially ruled a homicide. However, the cause of death remained elusive, swallowed by the ravages of decomposition. The lack of clothing, personal items, and any forensic clues proved to be significant barriers for investigators. Without witnesses or concrete leads, the search for answers became an uphill battle fueled only by the lingering questions surrounding her fate. With a 3.5-year gap rendering crucial evidence degraded, the path forward appeared daunting. Speculation about the nature of her abduction simmered beneath the surface. Was it random or something more sinister? Despite persistent public appeals, credible tips remained scarce, plunging Kathy's case deeper into the shadows of obscurity. Recent developments rekindled a glimmer of hope as the Tucson Police Department submitted evidence for forensic genetic genealogy testing in 2022. Although the quest for DNA extraction from her bones poses uncertainties, the cold case unit's continued dedication to re-examining evidence with modern technology represents a commitment to justice that honors Kathy's memory. With a reward of $1,000 offered through 88 Crime for information leading to an arrest, the hope for resolution persists, reminding us that the search for justice is never truly over. Kathy's story, though woven through heartbreak, remains a call to action for those who have the ability to share any information that could illuminate this chilling case. Brandy Jo Myers was a vibrant 19-year-old, a young woman with dreams interrupted by her mysterious disappearance on October 24, 2000. She was last seen leaving a friend's apartment in Tucson, Arizona. Stepping out into the world, she mentioned meeting an unidentified person, a statement that would ignite a whirlwind of concern and anxiety as she vanished without a trace. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, yet her loved ones received no communication from her. The absence of her purse marked an eerie silence, a stark reminder of her sudden and inexplicable departure. Hope flickered as time passed, yet darkness loomed, shrouding the lives of those who cared for her. 16 long months later, on March 10, 2002, skeletal remains emerged from the remote desert area near Avra Valley Road. This desolate landscape, once a forgotten corner in Tucson, became a significant progression in a case that was fraught with challenges. Identification through dental records confirmed the remains belonged to Brandy, a tragic resolution that brought fleeting closure but left many questions unanswered. Law enforcement quickly ruled her death a homicide, yet the cause was obscured by decomposition. Investigators found no crime scene and faced significant hurdles, notably conflicting witness accounts regarding her final movements. These adversities compounded the mystery, as no suspects materialized and not a shred of forensic evidence emerged from the investigation. Theories of foul play manipulated the narrative, intertwining with the uncertainty surrounding Brandy's past, particularly her connections to drug activity. Tucson police briefly explored potential links to a series of unsolved murders, yet every lead faded without substantial connection. Continued advancements in investigative technology led to renewed hope in 2023, with the submission of Brandy's remains for forensic genetic genealogy analysis. The aim was crystal clear: to extract DNA from her bones, to generate a suspect profile that could ultimately breathe life into a case that had lingered unsolved for over 2 decades. As of 2025, Brandy Jo Myers' case remains an active cold case, a chilling testament to the shadows lurking in our communities. Law enforcement persists in their investigation, buoyed by a $1,000 reward for tips, hoping that someone somewhere holds the key to unlock this long-standing mystery.